The Australian Financial Review.
Growing your career, if you do want to be a superstar, then you're going to have to put yourself forward. You're going to have to move out of that role where you're comfortable and you're good at it, you know what you're doing, because they're the steps that you have to take that huge leap to the big role.
Hi, I'm Sally Patton, editor of Boss from the Australian Financial Review, and welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success and failure and everything in between. And along the way, of course, we're hoping to get some really great advice from our leaders. My guest today, most happily, is Carolyn Creswell, the founder and chief executive of Carman's Kitchen. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
Hi, Sally. Thanks for having me.
As I said, you're the founder and chief executive of Carman's Kitchen, which sells muesli, porridge oats, muesli bars and crackers. You founded Carman's in 1992 and you now employ 70 people and export your products to more than 30 countries. And my fun fact is that last year you sold 150 million muesli bars. Now, Carolyn, we've only got 15 minutes. I'm going to start the clock right now. My first question is about your morning routine. What does it look like? What time do you get up? What happens?
So I'm a bit of a biohacker. I love health. So the first thing I do, I wake up at about 6:30 and I do a 5-minute meditation. And then I get out of bed and I have a green juice. And then I throw on my gym clothes, grab my clothes for the day, and I go to Pilates generally at 7 o'clock each morning. And then I have about an hour after that where I do some different things like red light therapy, or I might do an oxygen session. And so I try and actually push my coffee well back till I get to the office sort of just after 9. And then I'll have breakfast at the office and then I have a coffee and I try and wait till about 10. So yeah, it's pretty busy.
That is really busy. How long have you done alternative therapies like the red light therapy for?
For about a year. So my favourite's actually doing something called cryotherapy, where I hop in I can only describe it as a freezer, which is minus 86 degrees. And for 3 minutes, I put on a very loud disco song. I generally listen to I Was Made for Loving You, Baby. And I dance my heart out for 3 minutes and I feel amazing afterwards.
So is this all part of your desire to live till you're 100?
Not so much live till I'm 100. I just want to feel fantastic. I want to feel like I've got lots of energy. So it's not about what I look like on the outside. It's about how I feel on the inside. I want to be able to jump out of bed at 6:30 in the morning. And I'm quite happy to say, do you know what, by 9 o'clock at night, I'm winding off and, I'm in bed by 9:30. But I want my day to feel full and I want to feel I'm giving life everything that I can.
Absolutely. I love that. But I do have to ask, what do you have for breakfast?
So generally it will be the latest Carman's product that we are bringing out, but often it might just have to be, we might be working on something. So at the moment we're working on overnight oats, so we'll have made those the night before. So I wait till I get to the office and find out the surprise of what I'm having for breakfast.
Oh, so it really can be whatever happens to be around and what the new thing is that day or that week.
So my role at Carman's really is to try every sample of every round, and we bring out dozens upon dozens of new products each year. And we're like Willy Wonka, mad scientists, designing new things. So I taste every round. So every day it could be multiple different things that I need to taste. And so often I start with some new breakfast product we're working on.
Okay, Carolyn, my next question is about a pivotal moment in your career. Things that happened in the business, maybe the reason for taking on the business that really changed the whole trajectory of what you were doing.
I know the exact answer to this because it was life-changing for me. I bought the business when I was 18 for $1,000, and then after a few years, I was absolutely broke. I was barely able to pay the bills. And I had this situation where I couldn't pay the nut supplier, and I went to give him a cheque and I wasn't going to sign it, and I thought he'll work it out tomorrow and then he'll have to drive back and I can sign the cheque tomorrow and I'll be able to pay him tomorrow. And the guy that I worked with in this sort of shared warehouse space, he said to me, why don't you just tell him the truth? It has stuck with me. And I said, look, I'm really sorry, I can't afford for you to bank that cheque today. Would you mind hanging on and banking it tomorrow? And he said, no problem. And so I actually have a picture of book spines of All About Telling the Truth that sits behind my desk to this day. And even if I have to have a really uncomfortable conversation with someone, if you come from the place of the truth, coming back in different conversations, sometimes I feel you never get caught out. And it's a super important lesson that I've learned in my career.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. My next question is about career advice. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
Own the energy that you bring into the space. People most of the time know that you're going to be able to do the job. However, to be able to be curious and to be able to say, hey, I don't know about that. And sometimes in the workplace, I think people come in and think someone else might solve that problem. And you want to really have that attitude that whatever it is, whatever gets thrown at you, are you curious enough? Do you have a positive attitude? And are you going to lean in to trying to solve it?
So do you have days when you don't really feel like solving problems, you're feeling a bit down for whatever reason, you don't have that much energy? And if so, what do you do? How do you handle yourself? Or maybe you don't have them.
I don't really have those days. I'm someone who has an enormous amount of optimism and energy. I thrive on solving really difficult, and when I say difficult, let's be honest, I make muesli bars for a living. Like, this isn't difficult problems, but it might be the trend of something. How could we possibly execute it? It's guessing what people might want in 3 years' time. How can we make that happen? And there might be lots of different issues with, might be something in supply chain. It could be a fire in a factory. But I love feeling proud that I was able to do a good job.
On that note, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to open the chatterbox. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Carolyn Creswell, the founder and chief executive of Carman's Kitchen. Now, Carolyn, this is our section called the Chatterbox. The chatterbox today is in front of me rather than you because we're in different cities. You are going to have to rely on me to be honest and fish some questions out of the box, and we'll have a bit more Q&A. Are you ready for this?
I'm so ready.
Okay, you have to trust me, I'm afraid. Who is a leader, business or otherwise, whom you really admire and why?
I just heard her speak in Miami and I'm slightly obsessed. So her name is Kat Cole and she is the CEO of the green juice I have each morning called AG1, and she's had a super interesting career.
Are there one or two things that you can point to that you have really learnt from her?
To get amongst your consumers, and I always knew that. You know, I had a great example where I was in a supermarket recently and I was on holidays and I was bringing all the products forward. A couple of days later, this consumer came up to me and I was able to spend this time at the airport having a good chat about what is it that drives your consumers, that real sense of getting into their heads and getting into their decision making.
And something that you can mainly determine by going into stores, or do you do that through focus groups?
Yes, you can do it via focus groups, but I like actually interacting with a real person. My sort of superpower is to be able to guess what Carman's product they buy before they tell me.
What a great game.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm very proud of being able to work out. But I have been doing this for 32 years, so, I'm not new at it.
Get to know your customer. That's very good advice. Okay, I'm going to have another fish in the box on your behalf. Here we go. What is one piece of work advice or life advice that you think is, in fact, BS, for want of a better word?
This idea that you can't have work-life balance, and particularly, for women, that you can only choose to have a great career and work really hard, or you can choose to be a great parent. You can actually do both. We seem to accept that men can do it more and it's okay for a man to work full-time and be a great dad. The vibe in Australia is that women have to choose one or the other. And I work full-time and I'm a great mum. I think that we need to be fighting more that that's possible.
So how do you manage to do it, to have that work-life balance between work and your family?
So I think to me it is protecting your time. So if someone asks you for $20 on the street, you'll say no. But if someone asks you for 20 minutes, you feel obliged that you should always give your time away. And time's actually the only thing that you're running out of. You can make more money, but protecting your time, is this the best use of your time?
Yeah, that's really good advice. Be ruthless with your time. Okay. What is the best way to get a promotion in your view? How do you go about doing it?
So I think people wait until the promotion is open. So it's having the constant conversations about sitting back and looking and saying, I'd love to think that I could get there. And then, saying to your manager, what would be the next step? So often I get shocked when people will move out of sales. They're great salespeople and they'll move into category, or they might move across to marketing because they know that that's then going to make them a great leader down the track. And so having the conversations and say, look, I'm really interested in progressing my career. Where do you think the next move for me should be? So that when that opportunity opens up, that they're aware that that's the dream for you and that you've already started talking about it and you've started doing some work and potentially some extra learning in that area. And I think people have to take responsibility for their own careers and really think about them strategically, because sometimes you can turn around and you've been doing the same job for 5 years. We call them rock stars and superstars. It's okay to be a rock star, to say, I'm just going to continually be great and just keep doing this job. But for some people, if you want to be a superstar, you're going to have, know what that next role is going to look like and start working towards growing your career so that you can end up having that wealth of knowledge and experience to take that huge leap to the big role.
That's a really interesting concept. So your superstars, how often might they change jobs in order to keep on progressing?
Roughly every 2 years. They might go from, a junior brand manager to the brand manager to the senior brand manager, and then they might move over to a role in category. And I often think, oh my gosh, could they really be bothered? But then when they come back in, because they then want to be, say, the marketing manager, they understand the whole gamut because they've worked in different areas. And so sometimes you've got to sort of go into an area where it's not necessarily your skill set. I look at me with what I've done at Carman's. In the early days, I did every role. So I have an understanding of all the different roles. What it's like to be on the phone to an upset customer. What's it like to go in and do a big presentation to a buyer that doesn't really care? Having that exposure, and that's, things like grad programs are fantastic for that. Then to know what you would love to do every day, because at the end of the day, I think that that's what's really important. Do you wake up and say, I actually really enjoy this work?
And I also just love that concept of rock stars and superstars. And it's really important to know yourself, which one you are. And I guess for the company as well, to know who are the rock stars and who are superstars, and both can fit.
Absolutely. And a company should recognise and respect both, but don't want to be a superstar and just keep staying as a rock star and not tell everyone. If you do want to be a superstar, then you're going to have to put yourself forward. You're going to have to move out of that role where you're comfortable and you're good at it and you know what you're doing, to go into the role that's much more uncomfortable and working with perhaps some people that you don't know so well, because they're the steps that you have to take to keep progressing.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Okay, let's have another question. I'm going to fish on your behalf. What does AI mean for your business?
For me, AI has been the biggest opportunity for us of anything I've seen in my sort of whole career. So I think it's really got to be leadership-led. So I personally have started a group where I meet with people. In fact, I've got the lunch with them today and we talk about how we're using it. So instead of using Google, I use ChatGPT, and there's sort of 3 things I'd say. 1, you need to name it so that then it's okay to say to your team, hey, for me, her name's Eleanor, and they'll say, Eleanor suggested this, let's just have a talk about it so that we know it's not my work, but let's actually analyse the work. The next one is having a custom GPT. So I have one as my role as the CEO. It has all of our information loaded, and when we have the paid GPT, so it's all safe. And I ask it lots of work questions. And then the next step is what I'm actually learning about today, will be writing agents. So the difference is with an agent is they're able to do stuff actually working rather than just answering questions. So for me, it's something that I'm super, super excited, and I'm driving a really big agenda for AI at Carman's.
So do you think it's mainly going to be a productivity hack for you, or are you looking way beyond that, thinking how can it improve the whole company? How can it even, say, find new revenue streams for you?
I think sometimes people think, oh, it's just about taking away jobs. It's about how does it actually suggest things that you might not have thought of yourself. But if I want to look, what would Carman's popcorn look like if we did it in a hot honey? I just type that in and a minute later we've got beautiful images that come up. And so being able to see things come to life super fast is game-changing for what we do. And also it's pushing the boundaries.
So it could really help you bring new products to the market.
Constantly. I mean, one of the rules when people come into me is you need to show me the product with the design that you have done with AI. And I'll say, well, what prompts did you use to try and suggest if this was a good idea? AI is the first thing I would start in the conversation around what work they've done and what has AI said about it.
Wow, interesting. That's taking it to a new level with all your staff.
Yes.
On that note, Carolyn, thank you so much. You have passed with flying colours the Chatterbox section. I now have one more question which we ask everyone who comes on the podcast, and that is, if for some reason, whatever reason, you weren't the CEO of Carman's, what would you be doing?
For some random reason, I have always had this desire to grow organic blueberries. And I love the idea of going out and seeing my blueberries ripen and picking them. And then somehow through this, my son recently has been talking about that this would be something he'd like to do. So I feel like maybe I'm going to live vicariously, hopefully, through his dream of growing blueberries.
Wow, sounds fantastic. And on that note, our 15 minutes is up. Thank you so much for allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you. It's been a joy to be here.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and you want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, produced and edited by Iona Rennie. Head of audio is Alex Gow, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini.
The Australian Financial Review.